With the Phoenix Suns losing in the second round to the Dallas Mavericks, a team that no one expected them to lose to, it's clear that big changes are coming to the Phoenix Suns organization. This has led me to make this video where I'll be discussing what I think the Phoenix Suns should do in this year's offseason. Basically, I'm going to name 3 things the Phoenix Suns can do or look into to improve for next season. Before we get into the video, I ask you to drop a like on this video. It does help my channel grow. Subscribe to my channel if you want daily NBA content. Also, when there's a goal of 3,000 subscribers. Also, drop a comment on this video. I do respond to all of my comments. And play that intro.
Hallelujah, 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 hallelujah.
The first thing to talk about the Suns when it comes to this year's offseason is something that has kind of gone under the radar in the NBA community, because it's not a fact or a certain that DeAndre Ayton will be on this roster next year. If you didn't know, in that Game 7 where the Suns got absolutely crushed by the Mavericks and eliminated from the playoffs, Ayton only played 17 minutes, which is very puzzling since the whole regular season he hadn't played less than 29 minutes in a game. And you would have been thinking, like, why would the Suns not play their third or fourth best player in the most pivotal game of the season in a win or loss go home situation? When Monty Williams was asked about it after the game, he said it was an internal problem. And usually, even if there was an internal problem in a game like this with this situation, you don't care. You play your best players as much as they can. But it must have been something very serious if he wasn't going to play. Going into the offseason where DeAndre Ayton is a restricted free agent, this could bring up a lot of questions, because if he simply really does not want to be on his team anymore, I promise you he can find a way to leave. Because I heard reports that Ayton was kind of disappointed that the Suns didn't offer him a max contract. And if we're being honest, a max contract is a little bit too much for DeAndre Ayton. And if the Suns don't want to give him that, then I think he might take the option of getting a 1-year deal and then trying to leave Phoenix, or trying to force a sign and trade or something like that. And the worst thing Phoenix could do is re-sign him to a max deal, and then on top of that he doesn't want to be there. That would just be the absolutely worst case scenario. To talk about the options, what he could do, I think a realistic option is that Ayton takes a 1-year deal worth $25 million or something like that. He tries to prove to the Suns or other teams that he's worth a max contract. The other realistic option is the option that I think could really happen, which is a sign and trade, where the Suns give him the contract that the other team wants to give him, which is probably going to be somewhat close to a max. They trade him to that other team and they get real assets in return. And Ayton is actually a very valuable center. He's a top 10 center in the league. He's a guy who could fit in most teams' system, as he's very good defensively as a big and a really good post-up player who's not demanding the ball a crazy amount. So he could fit on a lot of teams. So he definitely has a lot of trade patent value. The Suns could definitely get some good role players and solid pieces in return. Teams like the Bulls, Hawks, Pistons, Blazers, Spurs, and Hornets are all teams I think Ayton would fit in really nice with. All those teams could use a center. But regardless, that's my thoughts on the DeAndre Ayton situation with the Suns. The next thing I think the Phoenix Suns should look to do in this year's offseason is to get a guy who could come off their bench, be clutch, and make, also create his own shot. Going into the playoffs, I didn't think their depth would be a big problem, because their bench was one of the best benches in the regular season, but in the playoffs it was just absolutely terrible. I saw that Cameron Johnson and JaVale McGee, everyone on their bench was just absolutely terrible and basically crap the bed. They had little to no impact on the team. And to be honest, Cameron Johnson and JaVale McGee is not good enough to make your bench good. They're both really, really good bench players. Cameron Johnson was one of the contenders for the 6th Man of the Year award, but Phoenix just straight up needs more options off the bench, because the guy who's supposed to be exactly what they need, and Cameron Payne, absolutely laid an egg, averaging 4 points on 29% from the field, and he was an absolute mismatch on defense. Landry Shamet averaged 4 points, shooting 39% from the field. Generally, they just need a legit bench player. Cameron Johnson's a really good bench player, but he's just a catch and shoot guy who's average at best on defense. They need a guy who can create his own shot and make. And in this year's free agency, there's several guys who could do that for not a crazy amount of money. To name some of those guys, someone like Jeremy Lamb could do it. Maybe TJ Warren if he's willing to take a smaller offer since he's coming off injury. A guy like Dennis Schroeder would be absolutely perfect for a team like this. And since he didn't have a standout season, it's unlikely he's going to get a big contract from another team. Also, guys like Carmelo Anthony, Otto Porter Jr., Victor Oladipo could all be scorers off the bench that the Suns could use. Oladipo would be perfect, but he's probably not going to want to come off the bench since he's probably not going to take that big of a pay cut. But regardless, there's a lot of free agents the Suns can go after that give them exactly what their biggest weakness is right now. Maybe they could even trade DeAndre Ayton for that type of player. I'm not saying they're better without Ayton, but I think guys like JaVale McGee could be a solid replacement for Ayton. I'm not saying JaVale McGee's better than Ayton, but he's not a way worse defender than Ayton. And on offense, he's a better lob catcher. And even though McGee can't post up or shoot the mid-range, he still had one of the best backup center seasons in the league. So when you look at him, he definitely could be a solid starter in the league. And then if the Suns are able to improve their depth a little bit more, that might make them a better team. And last thing I want to talk about is kind of obvious, but it's for them to extend Devin Booker. He's able to get the super max. Even though Devin Booker played absolutely embarrassing in the last game of the season, he's still a superstar, offensive superstar in the league, still a top 20 player in the league. Deserves to get the super max. He was loyal to the Suns. I don't even want to talk about this much because it's kind of obvious that they're going to do it. They just got to do that this offseason. Lock in Devin Booker. He's their franchise star. But to conclude the video, I generally don't think the Suns are like in that bad of a spot as most people think. I think they easily could have won the series against the Mavericks if Chris Paul hadn't got injured. I know a lot of people don't believe Chris Paul got injured, but regardless, they're not that far off from winning a championship. Obviously, I will never have them as championship favorites or anything like that, but I generally believe they only have a little bit of things to fix it with their roster and they'll be better. But the question I have is about Chris Paul's age. He's getting older. They're going to need him for the long run because remember they gave him that huge contract last season. But in general, I'm not too worried about Phoenix. They're still contenders in my eyes. They'll just never be favorites, especially with the Clippers coming back next year and hopefully the Lakers improving. Anyways, guys, that's it for the video. Let me know whether or not you think the Suns are still contenders and what they should do this offseason. Drop a like on this video to help my channel grow. Subscribe to my channel if you want daily NBA content. Also, when I go up 3,000 subscribers, also drop a comment on this video. I do respond to all of my comments. And play that intro.